Hey, you looking for some secrets? I got them right here. I'm Wieczorek, and I've got this podcast. It's called Chicago Real Estate Secrets, and I'm going to share those secrets with you. I'm going to have the top producers and other real estate innovators in our area, and they're going to tell you everything you need to know how to make that money. So tune in every week and check it out.
All right, we have Mr. Bryan Nelson with us today, and thank you first and foremost, Bryan, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Bryan is with Baird Warner, and he's got some really great information to share with us today. Everybody can take something from this podcast today, and discovering on maybe a new way that you can go out there and uncover business. So, first and foremost, Bryan, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Bryan Nelson, and how do you find your way into real estate?
Yeah, sure thing. So thanks for the introduction, Mike. So as you mentioned, I'm with Baird and Warner. I've been in real estate for about 5.5 years now. And I come from more corporate America. I was in banking actually for quite a few years, as well as project management. And towards the end, I had become kind of the fixer, is what I had kind of been deemed within the bank. I was branch manager. They'd bring me into the different branches to try to get the teams together and get it, functioning at a high rate, high capacity within the market. And quite honestly, it got to the point where I was trying to motivate people who maybe didn't really want to be that motivated. My bonuses, my structure was directly tied to them getting more money. And I thought, shit, why don't I just do this for myself? And I'm pretty motivated on my own. So let me start motivating myself to do things. And I've always loved real estate. Um, in fact, I took a long time to get into it, partly because of the fear, of course. Going 100% commission was something that pretty much gave my wife a heart attack when I told her I was taking the plunge. So what had happened was I actually switched banks, and I signed up for my real estate courses, and in the transition between the two different banks that I'd been working from. And during that time, I took all my courses. I did the self-study at home. And what my original thought is, hey, I'll go in, I'll start doing this as a part-time gig. Hopefully things take off because I just really enjoy it. My wife and I would go to open houses just for the hell of it, for fun, get ideas about homes and stuff. Um, and yeah, what ended up happening was found out when I did join the new bank that it was a conflict of interest with the code of ethics, because we had lenders in office, of course. They wouldn't let you have a real estate license. So I took about 2 years until I finally said, you know what, this is it. It's all or nothing. And I jumped in, head first and said, I'm doing real estate, walked away from a pretty nice salary. But I had to make it happen. And that's what I did.
So, was that a good move?
Oh, it's fantastic. I love what I do. I used to wake up, in the mornings. Not that banking was bad. I mean, there's definitely some pros and cons to anything you do. The 9 to 5, I can tell you, is really nice, of course. But I wake up. I enjoy what I do every single day. It's just so fulfilling, and it doesn't even feel like work. And honestly, I hated everybody that told me that when I worked in the bank. I'm like, bullshit. You don't love your job. Like you need to get money, right? I'm that guy now. I really love it. Yeah.
Well, that's what everybody's looking for, is to honestly be able to say that. And you know what? When you're not in that position and somebody says it, you're like, doesn't
Right.
exist. I've never felt that. And so that's really a good lesson of perspective, though, just because you haven't felt it, touched it, doesn't mean it's not possible. And when people say these things, they're telling the truth. So it is possible. People have achieved certain levels of success that others think are impossible. Well, it's not. They're sitting there. It's
Yep.
they're right there. So that's powerful stuff. And let me ask you this: do you miss your salary now?
No,
Okay. All right.
no, not at all. My goal when I went into it was, of course, I said, you know what, I've got to I wanted it within the first 12 months, within, the first year, which was a little over ambitious, of course, because I didn't realize the whole, you're building up a business in real estate. So you're starting from zero. So I started in June, and June through December was, pretty rough because I was trying to get things going. But, I did this with a plan in place. People ask me all the time about going into real estate. And I say, hey, it's hugely rewarding. It's fabulous. I love it. But you got to understand what you're going to be doing, and you got to have a plan. I had a 6 month, or actually a little bit more, kind of nest egg just to ride me through, which was the best thing, because the first few months were rough. It takes a while to get your first couple deals under your belt. But not counting that, my first full year, January through December, I made more than what I walked away from, and that was my goal, and I crushed it, and it's just been, going up from there. So all good.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, and you get a dual commission per se, in the fact that, man, I'm doing this thing. I'm going and getting that money, and I'm helping people. Like, you're in the process of actually helping that person get to the goal.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I've been in banking. We had this conversation in retail banking, private client, and you're in front of them, you're in the transaction, but you're not really facilitating everything. And so in real estate, you really get to have, a part of these people's journey in whatever it is they're trying to do. Sell a house, buy a house, maybe both, vacation house, second, whatever it might be. And then when you do it long enough, you start to get generational like referrals, which is crazy. And so
Yeah.
those are cool stories. But I think the fact that you had a plan and were intentional in executing it is what everybody really needs to key on here, because I'm a perfect example of this. I've always been a massive action type of guy, but wasn't always focused on the right things of massive action, And so without having a concrete plan and intention, you can get off course real quick, and you can fail at this really great opportunity to change your life. And I'm happy to hear that you didn't, because I can see when you're smiling like that like, yeah, I absolutely did the right thing. This is a good,
Oh yeah.
It's an interesting thing. I was talking to a Marine buddy of mine, and he mentioned that when some of the service members get on a disability payment, they go, shit. They're like that. They're do that, but it's like kind of like the drip. They lose a little bit of motivation because they have this money coming in. And I go, damn, man, I kind of think that's like a salary job. I kind of think that's like a salary job where people are like, you know what, go ahead and place that governor on me. I don't really need to go that fast. I don't really need to get that much. I don't really need to go very far. I'm cool. Set me
Right.
on the drip. And I'm like, it kind of blew me back. So, and then here we are. This is an example of the drip. You were on the drip. You had a good job. You could have created a life in the trajectory of what the banking industry was going to allow for you, but you wouldn't have had the same type of smile. You probably wouldn't have had the same type of anything, because you're getting fulfilled by helping people and building this thing that's yours.
Exactly. And Mike, and that's the other thing, like you're talking about as well. It's not, I mean, the money's fantastic. I don't get me wrong. That was part of the reason behind it too, but that's not the reason behind it. And that's the whole key to this. And that's why, you love what you're doing and you're fantastic in your role. I probably wouldn't have that fulfillment. I love what I'm doing. And that's, like I said, when people ask me about getting into real estate, I just tell them, I'm like, this is the kind of stuff that's going on. It's all about your personality. My personality, just, it meshes, it works well with real estate. That's why I love what I'm doing. Yeah. And because I love it so much, that's what people see. And that's what drives the sales. I don't have to try hard to sell. It's not hard selling at all. It's nothing like the bank where it's like, hey, you need a credit card.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's Bryan, help me. I would love to buy a new house, to raise my family in. And I'm like, let's go. That's awesome. Let's do it. So
that's right. And it's And I know what you're saying, and we just have to use the word, but it's like, it's not even like selling, you're just like assisting these people because you have the information, and that's what you're doing today. You get
Correct.
compensated for it, but really at the end of the day, it's just information gathering and assessing based on your professional, opinion of seeing this stuff often, right? And so like that's why I tell people, I'm like, man, if you really do love what you're doing, again, you're not working, and it's not sales, it's service. I mean, it's like you're a real estate agent. Yeah, I do real estate service.
Right.
Basically, sales is, it's a dirty word. It shouldn't be, but in this industry, honestly, the best people are the ones that are just taking care of people. And along the
100%.
way, you can get rewarded handsomely for really making sure that they were satisfied. And there shouldn't be anybody hiding from that, because there's a lot of shit that you have to do, we have to do, attorneys do, that nobody knows and shouldn't have to,
Right.
because will allow them to, to get through the process. But there's a reason why there's compensation rewarded to those that have been through this 30, 45, 60, 90-day process,
Yeah, for sure.
So let me ask you this. How many hats do you wear in a typical transaction? I mean, you're a realtor, but then what else?
Oh, I do everything. And actually, you know what? I'd even say prior to realtor, the top one, the one I wear the most, is psychologist.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
mean, it's and quite honestly, that's something that, I always enjoyed, again, talking about having that passion and having that right personality. I mean, I studied psychology. I wasn't a psych major or anything like that, but I just took a couple psych courses in college just because I liked it. I like to think about it, always putting myself in other people's perspectives and trying to work through things. Um, and yeah, so psychologist is huge. The other thing is, I don't think it was necessarily a hat you wear, but stress management. I mean, man, the ups and downs on every transaction are insane. I mean, no matter whether it's a really smooth and fantastic transaction or it's the messiest thing that falls apart at the end of the day, there's always just a ton of stress that you're dealing with. And that excites me. I love it.
Yeah.
I eat that for breakfast. I mean, that's so you're doing that. You're a secretary. I mean, there's tons of paperwork. There's tons of communication with everybody at all times. You got to be very organized as to what you do, because here's the other thing that, a lot of my clients don't even understand, which is a fantastic thing, by the way, but they don't realize they're not my only clients. I'm dealing with 7, 8 clients at a time, all these different transactions, all these things that are going on in the works. Yet every time I'm talking to you, you're my number one, you're my client, I'm taking care of you. They don't even realize, oh yeah, Bryan probably is doing this, all day long with tons of different people. So there's a ton of stuff that we're working on, though. And I'm the type of real estate agent, I'm very hands-on. I enjoy every part of the process, and nothing against those real estate agents that maybe don't handle things this way, but you know, I'm here. I tell all my clients from day one through 5, 10, 15 years from now, like, we're developing a relationship. So even though the transactions may be 90 days long in total or whatever it might be, I'm there afterwards. Oh, you got a leak, I got a plumber, call my, here's my guys. I'm here to help at all times. So yeah, it's a ton of stuff that's going on, and too much to even, to go through, but that's what keeps it exciting.
And that's why it's not real estate sales. That's real estate service. I mean, because,
Correct.
and I love that, what I think I did for a while, took it, for granted, is people don't understand. Well, not don't understand. People aren't in real estate transactions as often as we are, right?
Right.
And people aren't all in sales. People don't all think about what it is to be in sales, and that return business is how we sustain our livelihoods and provide for our family. And it's our job to tell people too that, hey, listen, I'm a realtor, I'm a loan officer, I'm a whatever it is. And I'm not changing that. So we're doing this for life,
Right.
unless I rub you the wrong way, which I have no intention of doing so. And let me know if I do. I want it to be your phone call whenever you have anything real estate or non-real estate related. I just would like to be clear that I would like to do this again if you do it again. And if you're at a party and someone talks about doing it, tell them to call me. People need to know that you need their support. And what I think is interesting is more people need to tell their clients when they're in the transaction every time that I am here next time, because there's gonna be a next time. Those clients, it's not even them being jerks or signaling that you did something wrong next time. You just didn't have their attention again. You might not have followed up. So how do you stay in front of people? And then we're going to dive into exactly how you develop the infrastructure, essentially, of how you generate business. But well, let's do that first. And then I'd like to touch on, though, how you stay in front of those clients. All right. So let's jump into how you. So Bryan has again, this is kind of, the meat and potatoes, if you will. But Bryan has, definitely impressed me with the way that he developed the business. So you mentioned that you had a plan. You're coming from the banking industry. You're transferring now to become a realtor. You started off part-time. You said you had a 6-month nest egg ready to go and a 12-month plan, was it, to get to where your original salary was?
Yeah, pretty much. So what it was just a real quick clarification. I did not start part-time because I wasn't able to. That was my original intent, was to start part-time, and the bank wouldn't have that, which is understandable. So I had to jump in, full-time, quit my job. It was all real estate. That's it.
Pause for 1 second before you get rolling. I fucking love that part, because I just love how life ends up giving you this nice, well, this is going to be uncomfortable. What are you going to do with it? So let's see what you did with it.
Yeah. So when I made that leap of faith, it is. And like I said, you're starting from zero. There's nothing. One of the things that my wife was not aware of until I had already taken the plunge was she thought that I was going to be fed leads. She thought I was going to be given leads and things and people to call on and stuff. And I said, no, this is all self-generation. You might get somebody that calls into the office, and if you happen to be sitting on floor time or something, you could pick that up. But nowadays there's not a whole lot of that going on anyhow. So, plan, of course, was what everyone would do, all your friends, family, everybody that but my biggest thing, and where I found some success, was it's all about your sphere of influence. And for me, my sphere worked out really well because I came from banking. And as being a branch manager, I had trained salespeople. I had taught them the banking infrastructure. I knew all the stuff about the mortgages and the lenders and all of that. And then what happened was, as I said, I was kind of Mr. Fix-It. People still liked me, even though sometimes they'd leave. And what happened was my network just spiderwebbed like everywhere, because I have bankers that were at the bank with me, but then they'd be hopping to all these other different little branches, other different banks as their careers progressed. And I just kept growing that network I was going in, I was doing what we call pop buys, and especially at the beginning, it was all the sweat equity, right? So it was all about, I was baking cookies at home with my wife, stuffing them in little bags, putting my business card on it. I'd go to the branch and I was talking to my people, I know you. Now, introduce me to your manager, introduce me to the other bankers. I want them to know me. I'm your real estate agent. I'm your guy. And this is going to be a fantastic relationship that we build together, because here's what's going to happen. You need to sell mortgages, right? We want them to book mortgages to the branch because that is very, profitable to the bank. What's going to happen? You get them in, they talk to your lender, and they get a nice little fancy piece of paper that says they're pre-approved. Then what? Well, that's where I come in. I help them with that fancy piece of paper, actually get a property under contract. because you've referred them to me. I'm going to make sure they're not going anywhere else. They're working with you and with your lender. So we're booking that business back to your branch. And it's a beautiful thing. So it was all about, and I'm talking, and I still do it too. I mean, it's that sweat equity. Now, this year, 2020, of course, threw a curveball at all of us. There's been a lot of different things. The homemade cookies are not really going to be that well received at this moment, and I'm not even able to go into most branches right now. So that has kind of taken me back a little bit, and I'm trying to focus on different ways of getting back in front of them and keeping my name and my face in front of all those bankers. But up until COVID, I mean, that was huge for me. I actually have one client who you talked about, I know we'll get into this a little bit later, Mike, but you were talking about keeping in front of people. Well, big thing is social media too. One of the guys that I actually worked with that was a manager at another branch, but of the same bank as I was, saw my social media stuff. And he called me up one day and he goes, Bryan, my real estate agent, my realtor, who obviously had done a very good job for him because she was his, right? She's retired now, Bryan. I need a new one. And I love what you're doing online. I was like, oh, I didn't even know he watched me, never had comments, never did likes or anything, but he calls me up. I love what you're doing. That conversation turned into, I have now closed, not just for him, but between him and his wife, there were 3 properties. They sold 2, they bought 1. And then I ended up helping his mom buy a place and helping his brother buy a place. I think I've had 6 or 7 transactions in total in the last 3 years with this one person. Wow. And that's what it's all about.
What it's all about is what you just said. It's showing up consistently and genuinely and letting people know what you do, because man, that hits home for me. Because I will tell you, I have been doing mortgages since I was 18, and I've done a lot of mortgages. I've done basically for a little over 18 years now. So 14 years of it, I was doing VA, refinance, not on the purchase side. And I'll tell you, when social media became really, really big, I fought it at first. And then I was like, man, it's silly not to be on there. But then I would see people that I know that we like each other, trust each other, all that. And they had just closed on a house. And I was like, man, what the fuck is going on here? And then, in some way I would like congratulate them and find out that they're like, oh man, I totally forgot you did that. And I'm like, how does anybody forget me? How do they forget me? What I do? It's like, man, come on. We're not as important as we'd love to think. For one, there's so much going on, and it's important for people to know what we do, because they would probably love to do business with us if they can just remember in that emotional state of, I got to get all this stuff in order. You know how it is. Everything is very emotional in that. And even we've both bought houses on our own, and you're like, wait a minute, am I that client right now? What's happening right now? But you've got to take responsibility for the fact that there's a lot going on out there, and it's your job. I vowed then at that day, I'll always remember, like, no one's ever going to forget what I do. I don't ever want to see that again,
Right.
And I don't think that I have, honestly. People are more like, man, you are just taking over my feed. It's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, people will comment on the street that never have liked it once, or I'll get deals. And so it's powerful. As many people that like it, there's 10 times as many that are seeing it.
Yep. And you never know. And same thing, showing up, like you said. I mean, I would go to the branches and I'd randomly get the people saying, oh, Bryan, I love the information that you're putting out there. And I'm like, what? Like, awesome. I didn't know you watched.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Man, I'm just thinking here for you, Bryan. You're talking about, how do you get in front of those people, right? At the branches? If you can call preemptively, or if you already know the people's names there, find them on Facebook or Instagram and go outside of the branch and do a little video or something and leave them a pre-packaged whatever, not a homemade, unfortunately can't do that, and just say, hey, whenever it's safe, this is what I have out here. I miss you guys. When we can, we'll do this in person. Until then, I'm going to leave this here, but it's going to self-destruct in 4 minutes. Gotta go. Whatever, man. You should
there you go. No,
not abandon what you're doing. Just do it differently, man.
Right. No, I like it. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Totally. Actually, I'm going to go do that right now. No, so man, I'm telling you, it is. So I like the fact that you had to do this all in. I like the fact that you're like, now don't anybody hopefully take this the wrong way. I love the fact that you didn't allow your wife to get herself worked up or concerned with the fact that there wasn't leads available, because in my mind, if I'm putting myself in your shoes, I'm like, I am the lead generator, baby. I'm doing it. I'm going to get it and it's going to be fine. But instead of having to push all of that over there, just saying, yeah, opportunities are coming. I think that's okay. That's like one of those white lies that's like, it's just easier that you don't have to worry about it because I know I'm going to be, we're going to be all good. And then we'll talk about it when we're good. I think that stuff is okay. I really do, because nobody can have the same amount of confidence as you do in yourself. And sometimes nobody needs to know what's going on until it's done.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you protect your mindset through all of the, because what you did, you don't get yes every time. That's not a model that everybody just says, yeah, that makes sense. Sign me up. So how do you deal with the mindset of, when rejections come in your way, now that you have to, kind of reinvent the wheel? What are you doing to protect, the integrity of your confidence? What do you do right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, and quite honestly, bringing back from that first 6 months with the wife and everything too. I mean, I know, as you were saying, but it's not all sunshine and, and happiness. There were the times of these very heated arguments.
Mm-hmm.
And Bryan, you gotta go get yourself a part-time job because you need to help provide for this family. And protecting the mindset. First off, I've just always been an extremely optimistic and positive person. It's just something that's been ingrained in me since birth. I'm always, I just have that positivity about me, which definitely has helped. But when you get that hard rejection, you gotta shrug it off and you gotta know that it's on to the next. So whether that be rejection of a straight up, I'm talking to you and the person says, you know what? No, I don't want it, or stop talking to me. Or you get into that listing appointment and then later on you find out that they listed with somebody else. Or you're halfway through a transaction or all the way through a transaction, it blows up at the closing. And then you find out that the person goes and finds somebody else, right? Not that you did anything wrong, but that's the whole thing. You gotta keep that positive mindset. No, number one, I did everything I could. And they're just going to be educated on maybe what other realtors really are like, when they're not dealing with me. I've had that happen too. They'll come back and be like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
that was a nightmare. I'm so happy. Like, we didn't even realize, sometimes that's the best education too. But it's on to the next, and having worked at the bank, I got a lot of no's at the bank. There, because that's all. I mean, that's just grinding it out. Like I said, you walk in, it's like, you want a credit card? Because you need a credit card. Yeah. You already have 4. That's okay.
Over there.
Right. So that definitely conditioned me a bit to it as well. But also looking out and, there's a ton of competition out there, right? And you can't win it all. You can't. There's tons of competition out there. So even those people that never even call you, that maybe forgot that you do what you do, or they knew it, but they felt for some reason, they felt that they didn't want to share everything with you. That's also the other thing. Some of these friends or family, sometimes they're like, ooh, I don't want I don't want you to know all my stuff, right? You just got to have that understanding and know that there's like a million other people out there that aren't going to have that problem with you. And so it's done. All right, that sucks. On to the next. We're good to go. And that's the positive attitude you got to keep.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm going to refer back to the Marine buddy of mine. And again, I was duck hunting with him and one of his fellow Marines that were in Fallujah together. And man, they were sharing some crazy stories together. And one had done 6 tours, and the common thread of him saying how he stayed alive was like, man, you just gotta, I kept telling everybody, you got to keep moving, man. You got to keep moving. And I'm like, man, that's never going to be different, and obviously not comparing the two, but like progress is success, is feeling good, and you just got to keep it moving. But you did make a huge point along the way. You have to do everything you can at all times to serve your client and the end result that you're looking for. And as long as you do that, then you just keep it moving with a smile and gratitude and, empathy, because man, you're never going to really know what's going on the other side. So, you know what? Sometimes it's like you said, like, okay, all right, they had to go somewhere else. That wasn't mine to have then right there, because I did everything and anything. I would still follow up with them though, right? And be like, hey, I just want to make sure everything's good. How's the house?
Yeah.
And anybody else that's looking for a house? Who else right now that I could help? I just go right back in like they're still your client, because it's still a question you got to ask.
100%. Yep. And that's the thing. You can't wear a chip on your shoulder. You can't let something piss you off, and you can't carry it with you, because number one, that's going to just bog you down, bring you back, and it's going to impede your progress. And to your point, maybe they had a very good, valid reason that they decided that they wanted to use somebody else. That doesn't mean they dislike you. And it doesn't mean like they're not going to refer you to somebody else. Like I'd said before, sometimes people need to be educated. Unfortunately, a lot of times you learn the most through the worst experiences.
How about that?
And so, sometimes that's going to be the case. Like they may have closed on a house, but you don't know. They might be moving in tomorrow and thinking, holy crap, that was just ridiculous. That was horrible. I never want to talk to that real estate agent or whoever, again, and if you're not following up because you're jaded that they decided to do something with somebody else instead of you, you just lost.
And Bryan, it could even, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I agree with you, but you might just call, that realtor might have done a fine job, got it for the price they wanted, closed, smiled, and said, congratulations.
Adios.
And then exactly, you call them, didn't do the deal, call them 2 days later. Hell, you could send them pizza while they're moving in and saying, hey, super happy to see that you got into the house. Fantastic. Excited for you guys. Here's some pizza, whatever it is, just to follow up. They might have been thrilled with the last person. I'll tell you, they might even eventually think it was you, because they'll forget the other person. This is a long life,
Yep.
And for any amount of reasons, they could have went with somebody else. And I'll tell you, do you think that, hey, maybe they didn't feel comfortable coming back to you because they felt embarrassed that they went with somebody else?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. That definitely happens as well.
I think, like you're talking about, if you said you've been the ultimate optimist, but I think coupled with that, you're being humble, you've also had a certain amount of confidence in yourself and your abilities throughout your life too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's important with all of this. One, you need to have confidence in yourself. I didn't do much of college, but what I did do in college was a decent amount of psychology classes, because I was the same way. I was like, what is going on with this? Like, I could read people's minds, basically. I could see that they're acting a certain way because there's like this theory that attaches, I'm like, it's been helpful to manage personalities. But when you have confidence in yourself, you're a fantastic realtor. I got to tell you, I tell people all the time, shame on you if you don't call, because they probably would love to have a fantastic realtor call them, but they're not going to call you. They're not going to find you.
Right.
They're not going to
No,
find you. So
sure.
it's interesting. The hardest transactions we learn the most, the calls we don't want to make, end up being the most valuable in one way or the other, right?
Oh yeah. Like I said, it's all that sweat equity. I mean, that's what pays off in dividends. It's all the phone calling, it's all the conversations. My wife laughs at me all the time because somehow or other, and again, it's not a hard sale kind of a thing, but I want everybody to know. So, somehow
Yeah.
real estate sneaks its way into the conversation just so I have that reminder out there for them. So yeah, it's all about that constant contact. You got to keep in front of everybody, whether you know them or you don't, and they need to know what's going on. But again, like we were talking, going to win some, you're going to lose some. Can't get down about the ones that you lose. You just move on to the next because there's a hell of a lot of them out there for you.
That's right. There's an abundance. There's definitely enough to go around. And I understand what you're saying with competition. And I would urge everybody to understand that the biggest competition is yourself. There is enough business to go around. If you're fighting for the same business as somebody else, you can just go in a bigger pond. You can get the same
Yep.
business, they can't get to the next person either. I mean, there's enough to go around. So how
For
do
sure.
you, like, I definitely will integrate, mortgage to make sure that people know what I do, right?
Yep.
Wayne Gretzky says, you miss every shot you don't take. Okay.
You go. Yeah.
Right. You can go to the Hall of Fame in baseball if you strike out 7 out of 10 times.
Right. That's crazy.
3 out of 7 times you got to hit the ball and get on base, and my coach would say offers minus no's equal the amount of dollars. Increase
Yep.
the offers, relative amount of no's, increase the dollars. You got to find the opportunity to offer your services more often, right? So how do you mentioned social media, how do you stay in front of those, not only clients,
Mm-hmm.
but anybody that you've come into contact with, your sphere of influence? How do you stay in contact with those people that you've spent some time with to make sure that when the time is right, that you are in front of them and available to help them? How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, that's the $1 million question, right, Mike? Because it's something that's always a work in progress. And could
Yes.
I do more? Absolutely. Should I do more? Definitely. But I try to do my best. So part of what I'm actually doing right now is this in what, half of a month now, in another 20 some days, I'm launching a team. I needed to bring in some help. I was getting handcuffed. I was one person trying to do everything. And like I said, that it just doesn't work once you start to build more business. So there's a lot of marketing that goes on. I've got actually part of my team is my wife. She is now not an agent, but she is getting certified as a professional home stager.
Oh,
And she's
fantastic.
working. Yeah. So that's something too.
Cool.
How do we differentiate ourselves? I don't know. I know of a lot of real estate agents that have home stagers that they work with, but how many can actually say that they're part of their team, right? Like, this is a dedicated service that I have that I provide to all my clients. But getting back to your question, most people, anyone who's listening to this podcast who's in real estate would know the name of Tom Ferry, right? And one of the things that he talked about that I caught on and think is huge is it's all about when you're out fishing, how many lines do you have in the water, right? So you've got this one line that is just hitting every 3 seconds and you're just pulling in the fish like mad. But you know what? There's another fish over there. And if you don't have that other line going out there, even though you're pulling that one in every 5 minutes, you're still getting a fish, right? So it's everywhere. It's everything to keep in front of people. We got the social media, multiple platforms. I've got a management database. It's called KV Core that works and it helps manage my database of all the leads that come in. I've got them on automatic drip campaigns. So there are emails going out. It reminds me to call people. Because again, I'm one guy, right? At least for right now. And trying to keep on top of all that, things do fall, slip through the cracks, but it comes back to that organization. So I have newsletters that go out. I'm farming. I'm doing electronic media as far as emails and newsletters like that. I'm hitting up those pop buys with the banks. I'm hitting up my other past clients and everybody too. I do pop buys to past clients or just those important sphere of influence people, right? It's all about being seen and being heard. And then phone calls. I mean, phone call every day. It's all about that. And just a little funny side comment on that. I've got a Fitbit, right? One of my friends who also is a client of mine, they do those Fitbit challenges, right? On a weekly basis. It's the work week hustle.
Oh, it's so
She thought I owned a treadmill.
Because you're phone calls?
Because me sitting still right now, Mike, this is difficult.
Yeah,
I don't sit.
I'm not sitting.
This phone goes to my ear, and my family makes fun of me. As soon as I get on the phone, I pace. I go in circles. I walk the whole time I talk.
Yeah.
My managing broker told me he might have to charge me when they replace the carpet in one of the offices because I'd go around in circles on the table.
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, and point being, I get so many steps in because I'm on the phone all day long, just trying to make all these different phone calls because I don't want anyone to forget about me, and you got to keep on top of your people.
Man, that was honestly a brilliant friggin' answer, a brilliant answer. How do you stay in front of people? Well, what I heard was I acknowledge that I'm not enough. Not like I'm not enough, but I'm not, there's not enough of me. Right.
Right.
So how do I duplicate? People have told me in the past when I've recommended that they do some of the things you've just mentioned, that that's going to lose the authenticity of the message they want to convey. And I said, well, you've got some things to think about. First and foremost, as you develop your business, you're going to compound the amount of people that you want to stay in front of. And those that you didn't even close, you're going to want to stay in front of them too. Now, if you know, again, that you're the best, and if they fall into somebody else's hands, they're not going to get the same type of service, then it's your responsibility to make darn sure that you're in front of them. And it's not reasonable to think that you can do that with all those people. So the genuine message is that I'm not going anywhere and I'm right here again. That's what needs to be genuine, that you aren't going anywhere, and that when they need you, they're reminded of what you do enough up to that point that it would be unreasonable now for them to go somewhere else. Sure. Unless it's out of their control too, which sometimes it just is, for unbeknownst reasons. But knowing that you need more people, knowing most business owners, entrepreneurs, I was one of them before as well, can't get out of their own way. And we're the best. And once you realize that I'm going to hire on people and they're not me, but they definitely are going to help us become a team, and getting your wife, having a home stager on your team is valuable. I would never shy away from telling people that it's your wife. Oh yeah. When you two can work together like that, that's brilliant for you guys. That's fantastic. You'll keep smiling like that. I'm sure she smiles like that. But to know that you guys are working on building something together, again, telling people what you do, and weave that into your story just as much as you're a realtor, that your wife works with you, because that's big. And people will be like, all right, I'm with him. Yeah. Good. I'll take that, because people want that. People want people want happy. People want that works, and that's cool to see. So I think you're dropping more knowledge here than you thought. I'm saying, give yourself credit for that. You're doing all the right things. And, I know that there's a little bit more volume in the real estate market now than there was 30 days ago, but there's going to be a little dip again. There's going to be a little bit of a lull just because there's any inventory, and we're going to get smoked with snow eventually over here. Right.
Yes. Yes.
And so this is a really good time to do what you're doing, man. This is a great time for anybody listening to this to get your stuff together. So
this is all about planning.
Where did you start your plan?
This time of year.
What did you do? Well, let me back up. So you developed was it, I mean, are you a guy that writes out your plan when you were coming into real estate? Are you like, do you have a skeleton, a outline, if you will, of what needs to be addressed right now as you kind of come through these months?
Yes and no. I'm not, I mean, I'd love to say I'm that guy, the super anal and organized and all of that. No, I'm not.
Not either. We're salesmen.
I do a lot of planning, so I'm kind of like an in-betweener, you could call it. I don't rush into things blindfolded either. I definitely have a plan in place. I know what I want to do. I know what it needs to be done to execute on it. But there's quite a few things that I could have documented and better, better prepared and organized. But no, I do my business planning. And in fact, what I did, so as I mentioned, starting the team, it's myself and my wife is going to be the home stager. That's also going to be helping us with marketing and everything. And then I brought in another agent as well, who actually started, she and I have just been doing really well together within the office. She and I started at the same time in real estate. She also does, fairly decent amount of business as well. And so it's going to be the two agents and then the wife as well. And so what I'm doing is I business planned, and what I told her is I'm like, look, I want you to build your own business plan. And then we're going to come and we're going to morph them together and build the team's business plan. Right. But I don't want to lose any of that steam, because the biggest thing for me, psychology, again, talking about what we, coming full circle, going on to that autopilot or whatever you want to call it, the drip where you've got your ceiling of your salary and whatnot. I don't want us to come together as a team and be like, oh, this is fantastic. Now all of a sudden we're doing 15 million when we shouldn't be doing 15 million. We should be doing 20, 22, because if we're morphing the two businesses together, we should be doing just as much as we have been or more. Right. So yeah, there's a lot of planning in place with that. I started this whole conversation with her and this venture back in October, actually. So it's not like we just had on a whim, let's start a team, no. This was all about, we're going to target January. It seems like a nice breaking point, launch the team then in January. But this is all the stuff we got to do. I built my logo. We're getting the signage. We're getting our, forecasting as far as our mailers, our farming is going to go. We're getting those planned out. So again, to your point, sometimes we get in our own way. I need to give that to then my wife so she can go and run with it. So I have more time to dedicate to my clients. I have more time to dedicate on the phone to booking those appointments and getting in front of people so that I can do more business.
I think you guys are going to need another person to help you.
That's the plan, actually. I'm thinking 1 year tops, and we need to get another agent, but we'll bring in a newbie at that point.
Yeah, maybe even somebody, and up to you guys, I would think of somebody who's not an agent right now. Somebody that, because you're like me, I can tell. I mean, I'm like you, I can't sit still. I'm actually not sitting. I have a standing desk that never really even goes down, for that matter.
There you go.
But what I'm telling you, we're similar, and I know myself. I am great at sprinting. I'm a doer. I'll be all over the place, but that's what drives me. I like the momentum. Yep. When we talked about it earlier today and I called you and I said, man, everything's running together. I actually love that. It was just conversations were good. And there was more to have there. Right. And so I just stayed engaged with it, but that's what I love doing. When I got to slow down, I get all like, oh, what's happening here? I'm like corkscrewed into the ground.
Right.
So I called it like I needed a cleaner. I need somebody to not like pick up my messes, but just make sure that all these bridges, all these really fantastic opportunities and ideas are completed and are followed through, and the pieces are taken and put into those boxes. Cause I'm on to the next thing, not in a bad way, but that's right. What we do. That's what we're good at. So when we hire somebody to supplement, not, what we just don't want to do, it's like, we're not even good at it. So find somebody who's better at it, pay them to get involved, and they'll probably love the opportunity to get the, the experience, not only in real estate, but in somebody who's good at it, is got their wife along for the ride with them as a partner. They're developing a new business. Like any young male, female is going to come out and be like, yes, please sign me up, man. I would totally find somebody would love to help, because you guys are probably going to
Sure.
do some fantastic things. And the people that are going to shine in 2021 are those that, again, I like to say the people that give a shit, because man, that's the honest, that's the truth. It's always been the truth, but now you got to listen and serve. And these people will be more than happy to be your cheerleaders after it's done. Cause it's not easy right now. It's not
Right.
just,
No, 100%.
so let me ask you this: with the new team coming on, you have your wife on board, you have another agent coming on board. I know that you've mentioned the importance of social media, and we understand now how you have, developed your business with those relationships in the banking industry. What is her strategy been? Is it completely different, a different model of developing those relationships? I'm interested to see kind of how that blend might look.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, we complement each other pretty well. Uh, One thing too that's also going to be fantastic, and this isn't really talking about the development there, but I'm bilingual, English and Spanish. My wife is from Spain, um, so she's obviously bilingual as well. And then the other agent's bilingual, English and Polish.
Mhm.
So right there, we're going to explode as far as just the people that we can connect with and get back in front of, and the opportunity, the flexibility of working through it. As far as the other agent, her husband is an electrician, so that helps out quite a bit as well, because he's getting in front of people who are doing, who knows, either new builds or remodels or other things, or getting their crap together so that they can have a safe house to, to sell, right? So I know she utilizes that stream for a sphere of influence. And then it's just, she's just, she is one of the most personable people. Like, everybody loves her, and she's one of those people who is very outgoing, talkative, and talking to everybody in the room. I
Mhm.
think I'm more of like, I've got specific spheres, I've got my banking connections, I've got my knowledge in my different pockets, and I grew up in this area, so I know people through that. She's more of she's the one that's going to wow people just
Yeah.
the moment that they meet her, right? And so I think that that's really going to help out a lot. She does a lot of her business comes through from open houses, actually. I get some business from open houses. I try to do a decent number of open houses, but I'll be honest. I mean, you compare me to her from open house conversions, and I'm left in the dust. I mean,
She
that's where
probably
she gets.
loves it.
Yeah, and she does. Yeah. So again, it's all about those compliments. How we work differently. I'm a little bit more business minded,
Yeah.
having been a manager, having run different things. I'm more of got that business mindset. She's more of the publicist, you could call it. Um, so there's that, and then what's really good though too is we complement each other in having differences like that. But the most important thing to me and to her as well, because quite honestly, she asked the right question, which was the hard question of, Bryan, if I'm joining this team of yours, because it's going to be called, we're Nelson Homes Group. Okay. So her name's not in it. It's this is my baby, this is my vision. But she's like, well, what's this doing for me? What's this doing for my business? And I was able to talk to her about it. The biggest thing is we would help each other out a lot because we are very, very like-minded in how we treat our clients. All getting back to what we talked about before, that service and how you are helping your clients. It's not about the money. It's not about the transaction. It's all about the people. She and I are very, very like-minded in that. And I think that's going to be fantastic. Um, Getting back to what you had said, some people ask you, well, if I bring somebody else on, does that, tarnish or just lose some of the authenticity of my message? Not if they're giving you the same message, not if they're providing the same service that you would be providing. So I think it's going to be huge.
And it will be huge. That's the biggest deal, is just making sure that you guys both have the same drive, which is taking care of people. And then along the way, having, the drive to do everything you can along the way and know that you got to just keep moving. Right.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, for sure. And
no,
having fun while doing
well,
it.
that's just it. And you
Yep.
can, when you've done everything possible to help somebody, because that feels good, right? It's
Yep.
self-serving to help people out. It's selfish to help somebody else out because it makes you feel good. I mean, somebody said that before. It was something about, you know, I don't give the guy on the street $20 because I'm happy to give it to him. It makes me feel good first. That's why I gave it to him. I felt great.
Right.
It's like, whatever makes you do it, then that's fantastic too. But when you start to really take care of people and you're like, well, wait a minute, that didn't seem hard. They all said yes. Well, yeah, because you didn't have anything other than trying to help them out and you were confident in what you were doing. So being decisive, being confident, obviously knowing your craft, also knowing when you're at capacity so you can continue to serve at the level in which you want to is so vital. So, you know, if you have the focus of serving more people, get out of your own way. Get out of your own way and find a way to bring somebody else in, be it a newbie, be it your son, your daughter. I mean, there's all different types of ways that people can help, whether they're wanting to be a realtor or not, right? They just in support of the feel good process. Maybe they just write handwritten notes all day.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Oh yeah. That's another one that we do. That's what my wife's been doing because my handwriting's horrible. So she writes it out and I sign it.
Well, there you go.
Throw it in the mail.
Man, as long as it gets done. I've said this before, but I think George W. Attributed his presidency to writing 15 handwritten notes a day. Genuine handwritten notes to acknowledge anybody from, you know, the guy in the bathroom handing out towels to, you know, vice president. So it keeps you in an attitude of gratitude. And I think that's what we're talking about here is just being grateful for the opportunity to serve people and letting them know that you need the business and appreciate it when they send it your way. So,
yeah.
Well, Bryan, man, I want to definitely thank you for coming on to the podcast. And if anybody wants to, you know, learn a little bit more about you, get in contact with you, whether it's to buy or sell a house or help learn about the team or maybe be a part of it, how can they get in touch with you?
Oh yeah. So you can find me on Facebook. It's at Bryan Nelson Realtor. Or you can reach out. Well, if you Google one thing to clarify for people, my name is spelled Bryan. But if you just Google Bryan, last name's Nelson, Nelson, in the Chicago area, it'll pop up and you'll have my website right there as well. Or you know, I'm always on my phone, 847-204-3353. You know, anybody's welcome to reach out on anything.
Awesome, Bryan. Well, we'll be sure to tag you in the podcast as well. So
fantastic.
You can catch them, you know, in the comments or somewhere in the post itself. But Bryan, thank you once again for coming on and sharing your story. I definitely appreciate it.
All right. Well, I appreciate it too, Mike. Thanks so much for your time and for the invitation.
My pleasure. We'll talk to you.
All right.